Now that a sequel to Matt Reeves' The Batman has officially been confirmed, it is prime time for some wild speculation about who might be the villain, or villains, in the upcoming film. And I'm here today to add to that wild speculation with my list of villains that I would like to see in this movie. Of course, with a video like this, there are going to be a number of spoilers for The Batman, but there are also going to be some spoilers for other Batman media, namely the comic, Batman the Cult, and the video game, Arkham Origins. So if you don't want those storylines to be spoiled, I suggest you click away now. And now that we've got those spoiler alerts out of the way, let's jump right into the list. Coming in at number 4 on my list is the Penguin and Associates. At the end of The Batman, it was pretty clear that the Penguin was in a prime position to grab quite a bit of power within Gotham's underworld. So what is he going to do with that power? Well, my thought is one of his first tasks, one of his first priorities, is going to be dealing with that pesky Batman problem. And how does he do that? Well, this is where I start looking to Arkham Origins. In Arkham Origins, Black Mask puts a prize on Batman's head, and a number of assassins come after Batman, trying to kill him and claim that prize. Now, we're going to ignore the little detail that in Arkham Origins, Black Mask is actually Joker and that whole deal. We're just going to go with the fact that, in this case, Penguin puts a prize on Batman's head, and assassins come flocking to Gotham to try and claim that prize. This could open the door for so many cool villains to enter the Reeves universe, such as Deathstroke, Lady Shiva, Deadshot, and so many other cool villains could be part of this film. It would also provide a nice contrast to what we saw in the first film. The first film had a very heavy detective focus, which I loved, but at the same time there wasn't as much action in that film as one might expect from a Batman movie. By having the plot of the sequel revolve around a plethora of villains trying to take Batman out, well, you've got yourself a recipe for lots of action there, which, as I said, would be a nice contrast to what we saw in the first film. At the number 3 spot, we've got Deacon Blackfire. For those of you who don't know, Deacon Blackfire is a cult leader who took his underground cult on a crusade to overtake Gotham. As if that was not intriguing enough in and of itself, during that process, Deacon Blackfire also broke Batman. He used drugs and brainwashing to put Batman into a terrible mental state where he could not function the way that he normally does. Some people have even speculated that during this altered state, Batman may have killed someone. Then towards the end of the story, things get so bad that Batman gives up for a short period of time, leaves Gotham and lets Blackfire do as he will. Now, of course, Deacon Blackfire is relatively unknown, especially outside of the comics community, but I still believe that as Gotham is right now, it is in the prime position for a character like Deacon Blackfire to enter the picture. By the end of The Batman, Riddler had revealed quite a bit about the ugliness of Gotham's inner workings, the crime, the corruption, and all sorts of other nasty stuff that made Gotham the city that it is today.
Gotham's legacy of lies and murder!
And while yes, at the end of the film, there is still a glimmer of hope with Gotham's new mayor coming into power, I imagine that quite a few Gothamites have lost all of their faith in the city as it is. Well, imagine that a charismatic character comes along who is an artful manipulator, promising a newer, better society. That character is Deacon Blackfire. All of those Gothamites who feel as though they've been left behind by their city join Deacon Blackfire, and boom, you've got yourself a cult there that could do quite a bit of damage. And of course, there's also the whole breaking Batman side of things. I think that would be a really interesting element to see in this series, especially because this series has had such a heavy focus on Bruce Wayne and Batman and the inner workings of his mind. I think having a character like Deacon Blackfire come in there and just blow all of that up would be fascinating to watch. At number 2, we've got Hugo Strange. Again, for those of you who don't know, Hugo Strange is a psychologist in Gotham who is completely unethical and in many cases has an obsession with Batman. So with loads of attention being put on Batman at the end of the Batman, I can only imagine that Hugo Strange is also watching Batman with great interest. But where does the villainous element come into play? Well, imagine this. Hugo Strange views Gotham as a giant lab where he can perform experiments to better understand the Batman's psyche. But he's unethical, so those experiments are often life or death. As an example, think about Strange subjecting Batman to situations where he has to decide who he is going to save, because the other person is going to die. Or imagine Hugo Strange setting up a situation where Batman can save a number of innocent lives, but only by killing one life of a criminal. I think that this could be fascinating, and once again would let us delve into the psyche of Pattinson's Batman. I personally really like this idea and would love to see it, but not as much as my number one. And that number one is Poison Ivy. Now, of course, the Reeves universe is very grounded, like the Nolanverse was, so a supernatural Ivy that can control plants and whatnot probably would not work. But I do imagine a more grounded version of the character could. Imagine Ivy as an eco-terrorist. She wants a sustainable world for all and will stop at absolutely nothing to accomplish that. And at the end of the first film, we saw Gotham flooded and in disrepair. There's going to be a lot of building back to be done. So of course Ivy wants that process to be as green and sustainable as possible, but the developers of Gotham don't always elect to go that route. So Ivy begins to take increasingly violent steps to accomplish her goal. Imagine her using a poisonous plant to assassinate a contractor, or flat out destroying an entire new development to make her point. I can't quite figure out how to make the second one plant-based, but I'm sure there's something that we could work out. This would be my personal pick as a villain, mostly because we haven't seen Poison Ivy in a long while, and I wasn't the biggest fan of Uma Thurman's version of her. I think so much more can be done with the character, and I think a plot where she is an eco-terrorist would allow her to reach her full potential. And there we have it, folks. That is my list of villains that I would like to see in the upcoming Batman sequel. Of course, that is just my opinion. I'm sure all of you have different opinions, so go ahead and leave those opinions down in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.